Kristen, how you doing?
Good.
Good. What
I'm
would be
grateful for this time
helpful?
together.
I know, I'm
Thank you.
excited.
Yeah, so like I put in my notes kind of prepping for this. I can give some context. I went full-time private practice in August.
Congrats.
And thank you. And a long time in agency work and hospital medical settings. And so my practice is I'm gearing toward LGBTQ people. I'm a geropsychologist, so I specialize in aging. So I've
Hmm.
adjusted my population a little younger for some factors like insurance, Medicare,
Hmm.
like when I'm opted out of Medicare and insurance, so private pay only.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm just finding it's a little difficult getting traction. So I'm having trouble kind of figuring out. I've been, several months in now and not getting many referrals and kind of feeling like I was relooking at my business plan, my marketing strategies, and I based it on what you had recommended
Hmm.
with kind of no more than five. So, but finding like that I'm just having trouble kind of getting some traction and getting referrals. So
Yeah,
very slow.
got it. So I know your demographic. What's your niche within that demographic?
So what I love is like the Phoenix energy of people in these seemingly intractable situations, like loss or death of someone, a
Hmm.
new disability or illness, chronic illness. So things that are very much out of their control,
Hmm.
and then helping them find, a new direction, new path that's in line with their values and very much an ACT person. So it's those feelings of, I'm cornered, I'm stuck, these things I didn't choose to have this happen to me,
Hmm.
or I don't want to get older. This is what I thought aging would be like.
Hmm.
And so trying to speak to that, my ideal client is probably more of a professional kind of person, um, who, has done a lot of things, maybe expanded their life, had a lot of um, success in different roles, work. We had family, friends, part of the community, but they're feeling like, what is all this for? I don't see a future for myself, or given what's
Hmm.
happened, like I don't, everything's changed, none of that matters now. I feel irrelevant because of my age or because of, what's happened to me. So that's kind of I guess, the pain points I try to speak to in my copy and my marketing.
Hmm.
I think loneliness is part of it too. Feeling like, we lost a generation with AIDS and
Yeah.
so like I'm kind of lonely. There's no one else my age. Like I don't have a lot of peers
Hmm.
to see how to do this, how to get older. So that's my ideal kind of client concerns.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. And so I really would appreciate, yeah, your feedback. I mean, I guess trying to think how can I expand or change or modify my ideal client and or clarify that, further refine it, and then also kind of my marketing approach
Yeah.
with that. So,
Yeah. I think first we need to hone your niche so that it's because right now, like your ideal client is potentially going through 10 different things at once that might bring them to therapy. So I think it's identifying, because I believe you that they're going through all those things at once, just like we all have all sorts of shit going on at any given
mhm,
time. But what is it that brings them in? Is it the trauma of having lost a partner or a friend or something in the moment that makes them feel like this thing has happened and now my life is it's like grayscale?
mhm, mhm.
Um, is it the erosion of getting older and how it is like the loneliness I think about, but I don't, it's hard for people to identify loneliness, I think. I think they pin it on all sorts of other things that aren't loneliness because loneliness feels or sounds um, childish and pathetic to a lot of people.
I'm
Even though,
lonely. Yeah.
yeah, even though like, God, all of us experience loneliness and it's the biggest trigger for all the terrible things, all the terrible decisions we make in the world is almost always loneliness. Um, so I think I might look at like what's the excuse they're putting on top of loneliness and market to that.
Hmm. Like, yeah, I'm trying to brainstorm around that, and I'm thinking like maybe I think I need to go deeper.
Hmm.
And yeah, I wondered how I could further specify like marketing to maybe just, I mean, I thought about do I just do just grief? Like, I think, or caregiver. I think any of those things could be like a thing, like, oh, now my person has dementia and I need to have this role, or like
Hmm.
I just lost someone, someone I care about died,
Yeah.
as the triggering. And yet I want to work with a range of concerns. I know that you
Hmm.
say like, you'll see people beyond just your identified client, like your ideal client
Yeah.
concerns, but with gender too, like that's like what's the gender of my ideal client? And I've all my marketing's been LGBTQ plus, like
Hmm.
trying to keep broad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess in some contexts that's probably helpful, but other like I don't want to work with just gay men. So,
Hmm.
like, I want gender diversity. I want to, have a trans affirming practice, welcome people of all genders, like in my practice.
Hmm.
And so, and I've tried to use that through imagery and things like showing, like, a range of ages, of racial identities, gender identities, try to be like all are welcome.
Hmm.
So, I guess
Yeah.
how do I marry those, like, speaking to that pain point and then, but being specific to, like a certain gender or certain person.
Hmm. I
So I
mean, I
struggle
think
with that.
gender-wise, we often have, like, I talk about an ideal client because it's one person having a specific gender, but that doesn't mean your niche has to be one gender. Doesn't mean like, you can show multiple genders on your website. I think what it boils down to is the pain point specificity is going to be the biggest lever for you to pull. So if you were to go with grief, you're still getting all the other juicy stuff, right? Like, because grief doesn't exist in a bubble.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it might be you help someone resolve grief of someone passing, and now they're dealing with aging stuff. Or maybe their person has dementia and also like, why aren't their kids pitching in and helping? And also, or like, I hate that we weren't able to have kids because like reproductive science wasn't a thing that it felt like two men could enter into in the 80s, like all these different
Hmm. Hmm.
things. So you're still going to get the human experience, basically, even if you're just going for grief or going for caregiving. But what is hardest for a person in their life at any given moment is the thing that they're searching for.
Right.
So I think like a lot of us as we get older do feel irrelevant or invisible or unimportant. But usually that pain isn't the thing that drives us to therapy, but it's something we'll talk about in therapy,
Hmm.
right?
It's underneath all of
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something because I guess how I've tried to approach that, I have a page on my website, I have a page for like caregiving stuff, a page for grief,
Hmm.
page for health changes and
Hmm.
challenges. Um, I guess partly for SEO, but also partly for just probably, trying to expand and keep it broad.
Hmm.
Would you think better to nix those for now or try to really just be like I'm the, queer aging specialist or the queer grief
Yeah.
specialist,
I
like
think the queer grief specialist works because there's like a Venn diagram of all those things, right?
mhm.
Um, yeah, I feel like that works. I'm curious about your homepage and how you frame things. Like if somebody lands there, what do they think you do?
So I recently kind of redid my homepage a little bit to put up toward right at the top, like I'm here to help LGBTQ people with situations that feel out of their control, like
Hmm.
grief, like caregiving. a new illness. So I kind of spell that out directly at the top,
Mm-hmm.
before the fold. So,
Good.
um, yeah, and then I just moved my video, like my intro video, which I just remade, up toward
Mm-hmm.
the top as well. So it's all kind
Awesome.
of right there. Um, so I guess I wanted to name those concerns that someone could look at like right away.
Mm-hmm.
But like what we're talking about, maybe even focusing on the grief. I guess I'm seeing focus on the grief aspects of all of those. There's a grief with dementia,
Mm-hmm.
caregiving. There's a grief with loss of ability or any
Yeah.
disability. And that's I don't know, that's kind of been latent in my thought. Like, I think it's the not just loss that's death, but loss that is like grief that is related to loss of other things too. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe the grief is the capturing
Yeah.
kind of construct.
And I wonder even like if loss might be more of the trigger word for people than grief. Because like if I'm losing my ability, let's say I'm gonna have to become a wheelchair user, for instance.
Hmm.
Um, Depending on how defended I am, I might be able to identify with loss better than grief because grief is assigned to death in my head, right? I mean, I think it depends on
Yeah.
your ideal client and which word they like. You're a caregiver. God, there's so much grief and loss there. And maybe you use both words. And maybe like you're
Mhm.
the queer grief and loss therapist, helping clients navigate caregiving loss and health concerns.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
that's landing. I could see that as making that the focal kind of pain that's like I've lost everything. I
yeah,
need therapy.
yeah,
I've lost this
absolutely.
person. I've lost my body
Hmm.
or whatever, like the way
Yeah.
it was. Yeah,
And so like if you have
that
that
does fit.
as like on the hero image on your website and then you spend the next, under the fold, you're talking about these three arenas that you work in briefly and you link those back to the pages you've already written for each. And
Hmm.
tying in like why are you the queer grief therapist and not just like the grief therapist? Like how it's different for queer communities,
Right.
where their support comes from or doesn't come from. If you've lost your generation, like who's supporting you while you're supporting your loved one with dementia, these kinds of things.
Hmm. Hmm.
So helping them see that it's not just you're like, hi, I'm queer, but you're like, I work with queer people. This is your, I understand, I understand what's going on for you on a really deep level.
Yeah, that's really helpful. It's the unifying kind of concern. And then a related question that comes to mind is, um, do I need to say like an age? Like, because if my concerns are going to skew toward an older age bracket,
Hmm.
like I guess I have been shifting in some areas and some profiles and things like kind of ditching the people over 50, being like,
Hmm.
wow, I mean, and people have asked me, they're like, well, can I refer someone who's 47 if they are like grieving? I'm like, yeah, if I resonate with them, like, please,
Yeah,
so
yeah. And I
happy to
wouldn't
help.
like throw out all the older folks who are maybe have Medicare because not everybody insists on using their Medicare.
Right, right.
So, and like a woman's wife might have breast cancer. There's caregiving and there's grief and loss in there. So
Hmm.
like I think this spans the ages in a way that makes sense. Like you don't need to say, the queer grief and loss therapist for people under 50. You can have photos of people of different ages, different genders, different relationships. And that communicates like, I've got you.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's helpful. I have been trying to do some of that, and like also my social media and things, trying just to like show a range
Hmm.
and younger and older people. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's helpful. Um,
And then I
I,
want to know your marketing strategies too.
yes. So I have my website. Um, and then I've been networking. So the networking piece has been probably the most enjoyable piece of this.
Good.
I'm not even from the get-go, I was like, I'm not gonna be scared about like reaching out to people or like meeting other therapists.
Hmm.
Um, I worked in teams for a long time, and so like I feel like now my team is like all the people that I get to meet, so that's
Hmm.
been fun. I made some good connections. I've been really focusing on, for a bit, I did direct primary care practices.
Hmm.
I'm currently doing geriatric care managers.
Hmm.
Have done, LGBTQ therapists, other folks, working with people. I made some really good local and in other states connections. So I'm multi-state practice, but I've been focusing on Utah, Colorado, and Wisconsin. So
Hmm.
I have connections in all those places, a lot of professional connections in Colorado,
Hmm.
where I worked for a long time. So that's been, I feel like that's been going well. I keep track of everyone, and follow up and
Good.
have little virtual coffees. So that part's the fun part for me right now.
Hmm.
But then the other
Good.
piece is that's where I'm ambivalent. So I've been doing the social media thing. I was like, you know, I got a Facebook business page
Hmm.
and I have been posting, I probably average 2 times a week, sometimes three,
Hmm.
with just different content related to those concerns. Um, I'm not sure about the engagement from that or like how that's helpful. On my website, I reference have my Facebook page, and so it's like I want to have something there and helpful stuff if
Hmm.
people were to go there. Um, I've also been doing, let's see, I wrote this down actually because I knew it'd be
You knew I was going to ask.
yes. So I have the website networking and then social media therapist directories. So that's
Hmm.
so I'm on, Psychology Today, like the predictable ones I just in Therapy Den. But also some more niche ones. So there's the LGBTQ directory with the Gay and Lesbian Medical Association. So you
Hmm.
should get a referral from that.
Awesome.
Um, and then some more niche ones. So those are kind of varied, and I've have generally the same content on them. Um, Unsure, like I'm tracking which ones I'm paying for, which ones I'm not paying for, and kind of any leads that are coming from the ones that I'm paying for, I'm gonna ditch them probably after 6 months if there's nothing coming.
Hmm.
Um, and then the last one is actually that's it. So directories, media, networking, and website. So I have four.
Okay. Awesome. So if social media is feeling like kind of a slog that's not yielding anything, I mean, that's the social media is the one that takes the most time and energy, both to like grow an audience, and then once you've grown an audience, you have to nurture the audience and like respond to the audience. So if that's not lighting you up, I might consider something else. I might consider SEO, which means you're also signing on for blogging. If writing
Yeah.
makes you want to drive stakes into your eyes, you could use, AI to help you. I would never just be like, write a post about gay men grieving. Like it would be terrible. And so if you're going to use AI, write a really, really specific prompt and then challenge the hell out of it. Like every paragraph it writes, I want you to have a problem with and tell it to fix it. And feed it anything that you've ever written so it can get your voice. If you like to
Yeah,
write, then
I
write.
do.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, then write.
Well, so that was one thing I thought the blog, because then connecting it to because people I found who were related to my niche or in my niche, they're coming up on the SERP because of their blog, like it's
Hmm.
LGBT aging or whatever. So
Yeah.
I have thought about blogging versus social media. So
Yeah, yeah. And if you Google the word keyword finder, you can put in for free, like you can put in different search things that you think your people might search. It'll tell you like how many people looked at it, how many like searched that, if it's high demand or low demand, like if other people have already written a bunch of blog posts about it. So you can kind of put in all the things you think that they would search, the things you want to write about, and it'll tell you like you're going to be spitting in the ocean with this one, or you're going to be one of, very few people who are addressing this and it's needed. So,
hmm. Okay. Yeah, I did a couple free trials with like I did Moz and I did
mhm.
I think I got a little lost in the keyword strategy piece. Like I wasn't, and it didn't, I wasn't sure if my niche, maybe I wasn't searching the right things. All it was coming up with like aging and LGBTQ, and I wasn't sure, like trying to think like, what do people search for? Like, how,
Yeah.
so I think I got stalled at that
I
level.
mean, I would look at like grief support for gay men or grief support for queer women or, just like throwing out different things and seeing what shows up.
Mhm.
What to do when your partner has dementia. Like, it's okay if it's not someone in the LGBTQ community finds you.
Right.
Like a certain
Right.
percentage of the population will be LGBTQ, you know? So, and some straight folks will find you and they might be like, oh, well, actually isn't for me because the blog post is about, what it's like for a queer couple or whatever.
Right.
But yeah,
I suppose I could still link my blog to my social page. Like
totally.
it could come, as I'm making it. So maybe in a future, because that's one thing I was thinking about, and that does align. So I think I probably will pursue the blogging direction
Hmm.
and maybe less of just one-off like social media posts.
Yeah.
But the other one is like the Facebook versus Google ads and like getting pulled into that. And you
Mm.
see, seems like a ta tasty, tempting apple. And I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't
I know. I know.
know.
And I mean, my experience with
Where?
Google Ads was never good. I had three different companies try for me. I always spent more money than I made. And for me, I was marketing eating disorders, so I was against the treatment centers. And I was paying, this was in like 2013, no, 2014. I was paying like $25 a click and nothing was coming
Wow.
from it. I can't even imagine what the treatment centers pay. So, my niche is potentially like it might be erroneous for me to think that it doesn't work for a lot of people. I love the idea of let's throw money at something and make it work, but that's not always how it works. Usually, Facebook ads don't work very well unless you're running something time limited, like a group,
Hmm.
or you could boost blog posts. If like I would vet it first and make sure that like let's say you post it on Facebook and one gets a lot more attention than the others. Maybe one yields a referral. Make sure all your blog posts have a really strong call to action.
Hmm.
But figuring out which blog post is most effective in getting clients in the door, and that's the one you boost. You don't just like throw money at it.
The high yield ones, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
That's
that way,
helpful.
when you're spending money, it makes sense. So Google Ads are one of those things. Usually, you need a pro to help you or do them. And since Google wants your money, they will like they have people who will help you with your ad. So that might be a route to take, but I would have a really strong cap on like, like you're gambling in Vegas and you were not spending more than X amount of dollars no matter what. And so doing that with Google Ads as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be more of a future state kind of thing, or for
Yeah.
more scaling or something. I don't know. But getting the capital, need more cash flow, I think, before we get there.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe by the time you have the cash flow, you don't need it. That's the hope,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
It means you've landed on something that's working. So I think if you're blogging and you're going in and you're like tweaking the SEO for the blogs, and it might be that you have different versions of the same blogs. You've got to make them like at least 30% different, which you could write one and then have AI make two versions that are 30% different.
Hmm.
So that Google's
Okay.
not like, why is this same blog post on your site over and over? And each of them could be geared towards a different state so that when people Google, it shows up, for them. Like if you're like helping queer couples in Utah, then it shows up for them in Utah when they're searching.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
because not all your blog posts need to be in your blog, like in your menu. Uh,
Oh, right. But it still pulls
mhm.
like from them as
Yes.
for SEO
So you can
purposes.
have them like hidden, but they're still published. So it means they're not something that you're going to find in the menu, but they're still live on the internet. So you could just keep one version in the menu, like in your blog menu, and the
Hmm.
others could be hidden.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Hmm.
that's really helpful because yeah, the multi-state thing was and for
Yeah.
getting more localized, like I've been reading, you can't do every state per se, but like if you're
Yeah.
focusing, I'm focusing in three states, so
Yeah.
means
It
I have
does make it
people
harder. And like ultimately you have plenty of people in your state
in one
to
state,
keep you
right?
full.
Yes.
And I understand you've got connections in Colorado and it makes sense to like use those connections. So, yeah.
Exactly. No, that is helpful. Maybe it's always clarifying the directions for me because I was getting a little languishing a little bit and like how do I
Hmm.
switch this up to be working better to get people in the door? Um, I guess one other final question I had too was so with my networking, I've been doing a lot of like cold emails, some warm handoffs from people I know, my people I already
Hmm.
know, but and I do ask, like who else should I talk to? Who else is cool? But
Hmm.
struggling, like I've been doing more cold emails versus I'm not quite at the cold calling. What do you have
Yeah.
thoughts about like, cold email versus cold calling places? Because not everyone
Yeah.
has a contact form or an email
Hmm.
available.
I would only personally do cold calling if it's somebody I was really like top of the list kind of person I really wanted to meet. Um,
Okay.
and I would write myself a script. I mean, it's basically the cold email script, right? Like you can use the same script verbally. But I think in this world of like we're all a little skittish on the phone, like it's personal or something,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
and I mean, you're younger than me, but I know like when I was a kid, like we were on the phone all the time. That's all we had. But now calling somebody feels like, I don't know, opening the bathroom
Like
door while they're peeing or
confrontational.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's a business you're calling, right? Ultimately. So, but I would probably write out a script and use it and only cold call the people that it's like, I know this would open a door and I genuinely want to meet this person. And this is the only avenue towards that.
Okay.
But
No,
I wouldn't do it with like just somebody on the list who didn't have an email address.
that's helpful. Yeah, because I have been getting some people call back, and I guess my feeling is like the right ones will find me. If I'm out there,
Hmm.
my message is good. Like,
Yeah.
so I feel like I'll just keep doing that then.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, this is giving me a lot to think about.
Good. Good. Yeah. I think just a little tightening with the niche because I think you're absolutely on the right track. It's just making like you know your people so well, you know all the things they're dealing with. So we just have to hone to like the thing they're coming to therapy for that they're conscious of. And then,
Hmm.
three
Hmm.
sessions in, it's the whole list of everything that you care about working with. So
Yeah,
honing that, and then, if social media isn't yielding a lot for you, then I would just use it as a like avenue for posting blog posts and seeing what
sure.
lands there and not give it like not even count it as a marketing strategy anymore and take the
More
pressure
like a
off
pass
yourself.
through. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Like it can live there and be something that people find if they're, if you reference it on your website, you can also take that off your website. But yeah, it doesn't have to be a thing you have to go into multiple times a week and like chug along on.
That's helpful. That feels right. I
Yeah,
think
good.
I'm better spent getting some good blog content now as well.
Yeah,
Because I'd like to
yeah,
develop eventually presentations,
yeah,
go doc talks, things like that I could do for folks like on those topics too. So that would align
yeah,
really well.
yeah,
Yeah. As another
absolutely.
means of like being in the community or like being out and about, and
Absolutely. I
do
mean, you
other.
could do some amazing CMEs for medical providers, unlike like the difference in grief and queer folks. Like there are some
Mhm.
specificity just based on like culture and based on who's available still in the culture. So there's some things that you could do that really set you up as the expert that has them like, oh, I've got this grieving client that I'm seeing at 2 o'clock. I got to make sure to send him to Weston.
Mm-hmm. That makes more sense. Like a lightning rod, they'll see that's like the focus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This has
Yay.
been so helpful,
I'm
Allison.
so glad. I'm glad.
I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for sharing this time.
Of course. Absolutely. Keep me updated in the Facebook group.
I will.
Okay,
Thank you so
cool.
much. Take good care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.